All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for quieting down and being very respectful of your substitute. I'm sorry I couldn't be here today, so I made you this video so you wouldn't get far behind. It is your job right now to be working hard and paying attention to the video. Just because I'm gone doesn't mean we're not learning. All right, so your warm-up is going to be find the sign. So these last three examples, or these last three problems from the classwork yesterday. So there was a worksheet. I think in one class we got to example 1, but we didn't do either of the next two. So I want you to do that as a warm-up. I'm going to ask your substitute if he could please go ahead and hit pause, give you a few minutes to work, and then come back and check the answers. All right, so take a few minutes. This does not mean this is social hour. This means get working, think about it, and you'll see the answers. You can check your work in a minute. All right, please pay attention. Thank you, everyone. All right, so if we are going to find sine of 11 pi over 4, oops, sorry, not on a pen. Okay, we need to think about where are we in the cycle. So we know that 2 pi sine is going to take one full period, and it takes 2 pi units to go one full cycle. Then it's going to repeat again. So here we have, if I divide 11 divided by 4, I get 2.75. So that tells me 11 pi over 4 is the same as 2.75 pi. How does that help me? Well, I can think of it as 2 pi plus 3/4 of 1 pi. All right, so I want to get to 3 pi over 4 past 2 pi. So here's 2 pi. And then when I go to do another cycle, I want to go 3/4 more. So if I think of this as a half, this is a quarter. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, right? So this is 1 full pi extra, but I only want 3/4. So we're right here. And when I'm at a pi over 4, we are going to have that 45, 45, 90 right triangle, so my height is root 2 over 2 at 11 pi over 4. Okay, so that's one way to think about it. Down here where you're finding which thetas, it should be pi over 2 plus 2 pi k if k is an integer. And number 3, I started by graphing sine. I did one cycle, one period, 2 periods, and then I did a half a period to get to 5 pi, because here it just said only graph from 5 pi to 7 pi. So I kept going with my sine curve, and that's what it would look like. All right, so hopefully that was okay. I know that these were tricky. This one right here is often the most missed problem on the quiz. So we need to keep practicing that. If it makes absolutely no sense to you, then let's work on it. Come on in and we will check in on that tomorrow since I'm not here today. All right. Homework assignment for tonight is worksheet 6.4. Now in your packet, you have it in your packet. There is a study guide on the front and then the problems on the back. So if you don't understand something from today, you can look at the study guide, and that could potentially help you. Okay, so we're going to talk about amplitude and period of sine and cosine functions today. All right, last night's homework. Let's check the answers. You should have got -1, -1. Over here, you got 1. Here, if you want to find the values for theta, for which the equation is true, you would have theta equals 2 pi plus 2 pi n for any integer n. My colleague did this. He didn't use k. No big deal. N in k is just any letter. 2 pi plus 2 pi n. And we talked about how we could simplify this and just say theta equals 2 pi n or k, whatever. We don't actually have to do that start and then add because it's the same amount. In this case, we do have to have what we started with and then what we added for any integer n. So hopefully you guys did that and you are checking your work. At the bottom, if we had to graph sine from negative pi over 2 to positive pi over 2, it would look like that, right? We don't need every single value in there. If you wanted to go pi over 4, root 2 over 2, approximate it, you could, but that's enough. Cosine from 7 pi to 9 pi. I would actually like it to be a little more curved like this. And these ones are good. Okay, determine the graph of sine and cosine or neither. So here, this is a cosine curve. Now we're only shown the negative portion, so we have to kind of keep going with it and figure out, is it cosine or sine? And then this one, is this cosine or sine? Actually, I don't think I agree with this. So sine would start here and go up to pi. Oh, I'm sorry, that says 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi. I didn't see the numbers correctly. Okay. Alright, maybe I agree with it again. Alright. So you need to, these were just asking you to extend, go further, and go backwards with it to figure out which one it was, if it's sine or cosine. Alright, and the last one, whew, I don't know if you guys were quite ready for that one. Oh, yeah you were. It gave you a whole equation and you just had to plug stuff in. So find when t equals 1. Alright. Cool. Hopefully you guys tried that and you can have some questions for me on whatever day I'm coming back. Wednesday. Alright. I apologize. My copy here is very blurry, but you have a beautiful copy. This says amplitude and this says period. Okay, amplitude is our A. A sine theta or A cosine theta. Whoa, that is not cosine. Let's try that again. Cosine theta. You guys with me? Alright, this is in your packet. So, I'm going to do a couple and then you guys are going to finish off the rest. So, here, I want to figure out what is my A. What is my amplitude here? Well, A is just like a vertical stretch. Did I have an A in front? No, it was just a 1. So my amplitude is 1. That's just a normal sine and cosine curve. Sine and cosine have an amplitude of 1. They go up to 1, down to negative 1. Up to 1, down to negative 1. Here, now I have 2. So my amplitude is 2. That means my sine curve is going to go up 2 and down 2. Up to positive 2 and to negative 2. Same thing here. Our amplitude is 3. You keep going. Ready, go. Fill those in. Find your amplitudes. Not rocket science. I'm confident everybody in this room can find the amplitudes. Alright, you should be done. I'm going to fill them in. 1, 1, 1. 1. Oh, this is so difficult. 3 and 5. Lovely. Those are our amplitudes. It's just, what is this vertical stretch? Right? How much did we stretch? Then we want to find the period. Here is a little formula for finding the period. You need to write it down. It may be on your paper somewhere, but 2 pi over k. K, you know what? Let's not use k. Can we use b? Let's use b. Alright, I'm taking away k. I'm rewriting it as 2 pi over b. Okay, so here we have a, because we're going to use a, b, c, d. And I will explain what that is. Let me write it up here. So, if we have a sine of b theta minus c plus d. I'm pretty sure this is what we're going to be doing. So instead of using k, I just want to start using b so we can start thinking about that. This is going to change our period. So okay, let's look at it real quick. Here we have a period. Let's see. If this right here inside, I'm looking for this, what's inside here. So I just have 1 theta, or 1x. Alright, so the number in front of my 1, that is my b value. b is 1. So in order to find my period, I have to plug that into my formula. 2 pi divided by 1. Well, it's 2 pi. And we already knew that the sine curve had a period of 2 pi, so that confirms what we already know. Cosine. my b value right here, what's in front, right? So this says cosine of bx, right? So what is that number in front of the x? It's just a 1 again, so b equals 1. 2 pi over b over 1 is just 2 pi. Okay, nothing new yet. These two, again, same thing. There's been an amplitude, the amplitude changed, but the period did not. Okay, so we're looking inside that, the sine and cosine of the angle to find our period change. So nothing changed on our period yet. Now we get a period change. So here it says my b value, b is 2. So if I take my 2 pi formula divided by b, 2 pi divided by 2, my 2 simplify, and now my period for this guy is pi. Now this is really interesting. There was a 2 here, but it cut my period in half. Okay, that's interesting. Here we have a 3, so if b is 3, we're going to go 2 pi over 3, right? 2 pi over b, 2 pi over 3. So 2 pi over 3 is my new period length, 2 pi over 3. So these functions are all transformed functions of these two, right? If these are my parent functions, these have all been adjusted. Okay, so what if I had cosine, sine of 1/2? So b is 1/2, 1/2. So I'm going to go 2 pi divided by 1/2. If I divide by a fraction, it's the same as multiply by the reciprocal. So times 2 over 1, and I get 4 pi. All right, this confirms here, if I double that, it cut my period in half. If I half this, then my period doubled. So this has an interesting relationship. Remember that whole don't trust your ex thing? It's kind of similar, right? Because it's doing the inverse or the reciprocal of what we thought. All right, so I'm going to leave these last 3 to you. Please try them. I'm going to say go ahead and hit pause. Try them. And then we'll check and see if you got the answer right. All right, so the last 3 answers for the period length would be 6 pi, 2 pi over 5, and 8 pi. What this means, just so you can get kind of a little preview, what that means, this says our amplitude is 5 and our period is 8 pi. So one full period, let's see, 8 pi is here. I'm going to cut that in half. Halfway would be what? What's half of 8 pi? Good, thank you for answering. 4 pi, and then what's half of that? See, doesn't it feel like I'm just here? Alright, half of that would be 2 pi, and half of that would be 6 pi. Okay, so this says cosine has a period of 8 pi, so I know I'm going to start and stop from 0 to 8 pi. We're going to go one full cycle of cosine, and my amplitude is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm at -5 and 5 are the highest and lowest my cosine function is going to go now. And I know my cosine starts up high. I'll do it in red. My cosine starts up high. Halfway, let's see. I cut this whole chunk. It's going to start high and end high. Right? This whole thing cut in half and then cut in half again will tell me where my values are. -5, 0, 5. So from +5 to 0 to -5, back to 0, and to +5. So that would be the graph, or one period of the graph of this function. So our period changed to 8 pi because of our b. 2 pi over k told me my period, and this was my amplitude. This stuff gets really fun. Aren't you having fun? Oh my goodness. All right. So, go back. Thank you. All right. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I'm sorry again. This is really blurry. So this basically is the same thing. You find the period, identify it, identify the amplitude. So do that for all of these. And then what it's asking you to do is match the graph. And I know the graphs aren't perfectly beautiful, But you need to think, okay, well, if this has an amplitude of 2, it went up and down to -2, I know that it has to go with one of these guys, with 2 or -2. I don't think we talked about the negative. So if I have an amplitude of -2, that negative also reflected me over the x-axis. So whereas this one started off as a sine curve going up and then down, it got reflected down. So instead of starting up, it's starting down. So that tells me that this one has a -2, because it went up 2, down 2. This has a negative in front because it got reflected. Okay, same thing with cosine. If cosine starts down at the bottom, then cosine got reflected over the x-axis. So I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes and try that. Work on that in your groups. Thank you. I'm going to say go ahead and pause it again. Try it, and then you can check your answers. All right. So your answers should be this. If you haven't finished yet, you could rewind the tape, pause the tape. This is what you should get. You know what I realized? I forgot to tell you about amplitude. It's the absolute value of A. So here, if it says -2, so we take the absolute value of that. So our amplitude is 2. The negative tells us it reflects, but if we're talking about amplitude, we're always talking about a positive value because we're taking the absolute value of it. All right. Good clarification. I apologize. I didn't say that the first time. Okay. In exercise 7 through 10, find the function of the form y equals a cosine bx with the given properties. Okay, I'll do one. You guys can do the rest. Amplitude is 3. A is 3. Period is pi. Okay. Let's see. The period is equal to 2 pi over b. So I have to figure out what b is given the period. All right, this is interesting. Okay. So I know it's going to be y equals 3 cosine something x. I have to figure out what b is, though. So I know that my period is pi. Normally it's 2 pi, but I divided 2 pi by b in order to get pi. If my period is pi, I must have divided by 2. Some of you might just see that, but if you don't just see it, you can go times b, b's cancel, 2 pi, b times pi, right? So I multiply by b, then I want to get b by itself, so I divide by pi, and b equals 2 pi divided by pi is 2. b is 2. 2x. So number 7, that would be the answer. Okay? So you need to set up that equation. 3 pi equals 2 pi over b to figure out what b is. Multiply by b, divide, and figure out what you get. Okay? So try number 8, 9, and 10. Again, I will pause so you guys have some time to work. Try them, and then see if you got it. Alright, so it takes a little work to find your b value. As you can see, I did my work right here. I set it equal to 2 pi over b, multiply by b, found what my b was, and then I could write my equation. Hopefully you guys figured that out. If you didn't, if it doesn't make sense, and somebody can explain, maybe you could come up and explain it. Alright, state the amplitude and period of that function. Amplitude right here, period. Be careful, amplitude is the absolute value of -2. So amplitude is 2. And this says theta over 4. Be careful, 1/4 is your b value. It's what the number in front of theta. So b is 1/4, but that's not what they asked. They asked for what's the period. So in order to find the period, I take 2 pi and divide it by b, divided by 1/4. The same thing as multiply by the reciprocal, which is 8 pi. I was about to say 6. Oh my gosh. So my period is 8 pi, and my amplitude is 2. Alright? I think I am done with this video. I'm ready to go home. Alright. You guys can practice a couple more. And we will continue on Wednesday to work on this stuff. You guys have homework. The homework is, you already have it. It's in your packet. Worksheet number 6-4. I will be checking both of them when I get back on Wednesday. All right. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for being such good, wonderful students. Keep working. If there's still lots of time, please don't crowd at the door. Thank you. All right. Bye.